everyone. Welcome to Sunspot, which is the Waxahachie Sun's one of our new podcasts, one of 5 that will be unfolding here in the weeks to come. Sunspot is really all about the city and the inner workings of the city and a lot of things. My name is Scott Brooks, work for the Waxahachie Sun, and I'm delighted today to have with me Billie Wallace, who is a candidate for City Council, and we're going to talk with Billie here in just a few minutes. Prior to that, I just want to tell you that Sunspot will be a weekly show, about an hour long. It will be about specific things related to the city, as I mentioned. But because we're launching it at election time, we are using these first 5 interviews to be about City Council and to allow you, really for the first time that I can remember, on air, video and audio, the opportunity to see and listen and understand and get to know the candidates that are running for office. One of the challenges in the country, certainly not the least of which of happening here in Waxahachie, is that oftentimes people go to the ballot box without really knowing who it is they're voting for. And we don't want that to happen. I don't think candidates want that to happen. Our future depends on that not happening, and to the extent that your hometown newspaper and media source can affect it, we want to make some changes for positive. So that said, Billie, I do want to say up front that Billie and I are friends. I love Billie. I love her commitment to the city, and her husband and I are pals as well. But putting that aside, this is really important, and so like with all candidates, I'm going to ask Billie some questions that she has not seen and let her answer from her heart. To begin with, Billie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
I know you've had a long night last night. It was, for those of you that don't know, there was a forum last night. But we're going to begin with allowing Billie just to share with you her background and things related to her in the city of Waxahachie. So, Billie, with that, tell us about you.
Thank you, Scott. I'm
You're
glad
welcome.
to be here this morning. I'm glad for the opportunity to allow people that don't know me to get to know me a little bit better, to know some more things about me that maybe they don't know up until this point. I am a native of Waxahachie, and I've been here my entire life. I was raised here, went to the schools here in Waxahachie, and graduated Waxahachie High School. Shortly after graduating Waxahachie High School, I joined the Waxahachie Police Department. I started out there as a non-paid police officer, spent about a year doing that, and of course, got hooked.
Right.
And then went through the police academy. But during that year that I was working for the police department, on a voluntary basis, I was working at Safeway here in Waxahachie when Safeway was here. And there I was a non-foods manager, and really loved my job there, but they shut down in '86. And whenever they shut down, obviously, I had bills and I needed a job. I left home at a really young age. I moved out when I was 16 of my parents' home, and I had a good job, at Safeway. It was my senior year of high school. But, by the time I was, 17, I had bills. I had rent, and utility bills, and I had a car payment. So when Safeway shut down, I needed a job, and while I was at Safeway, I used to help catch a lot of shoplifters, and I met a lot of the police officers there, and that's how I got involved.
Interesting.
And during that time that I worked at Safeway, and catching shoplifters and trying to slow the shoplifting down, several of them told me, you got a knack for this, Billie, and you need to become a police officer. And I said, no, I have a good job. And, Safeway was union back then,
right.
and they paid well.
Yeah.
But when the store shut down and I didn't have a job any longer, I paid for myself and put myself through the police academy in Arlington. And after graduating there, the Waxahachie Police Department hired me on as a police officer. And I spent the next 30 years there promoting through the ranks, and I had a very good career there. I started out as a patrolman and end up promoting to corporal and then to lieutenant. But during that time, I was the first female for a lot of different things. Right. And there had been female officers at Waxahachie prior to me coming, not many, a couple, but none of them ever rose higher than patrolman rank. So when I promoted, that made me the first female to do some of these things, including, the first female to hold rank, the first female detective, the first female to be on a SWAT team, the first female to ever command the SWAT team. And so I had a career first that I'm very proud of. Yeah. And I feel like I paved the way for the females behind me, to be able to do some of the same things I did. Spent 30 years there, and during that time, volunteer in the community. I've always been involved in the community. I mean, this is my hometown. I love Waxahachie. And that's another reason I'm running for Waxahachie City Council. But in 2016, I retired after a 30-year career with Waxahachie. And that same day that I retired from Waxahachie, I took a job as a white-collar investigator for National Insurance Crime Bureau. And that's currently where I'm employed. This whole time, serving on different boards within the community. This year, I am the president of the Waxahachie Rotary Club, which I dearly love. And, last year in the community at the onset of the pandemic, I felt a need. God was tugging on my heart. Billie, do something. People are hurting. People are losing their jobs. People's hours are being cut. What can you do? What can just little Billie do to help, all these people? And I remember clearly it was on a Thursday night, and it was in April, right after the pandemic hit. And I thought, you know what, I'll just start a social media group, and if I, have a washer that I no longer need because I've, bought a new set, and Scott, doesn't have a washer, then he can have my washer, and then, it helps him and it helps me. Sure. And I thought, that's what I'll do, and I'll name it Waxahachie Have It or Need It. And so that's what I did, and it's just continued to grow. But what's been so beautiful about it is shortly after doing that, people started, private citizens, mainly in Waxahachie, started donating money into the nonprofit. So quickly, I had to get the paperwork filed.
Treasurer and
yes,
all that, yeah.
Yes, I had to, to establish a board and do all the legal stuff. And so, now there's right at 2,000 members, and we've helped, I think 75 or 76 families that we've adopted, and we've helped them with either mortgage, rent, car payment, food, whatever it was. We've helped, a couple of families where their house burned down.
Right.
And we made a monetary donation to them. And we'll continue to do that. But, there's dedicated donors into that group that every month they're committed to donating in. Right. And, I find a lot of value in the fact that they trust me, with their money, that I'm going to put it in the right places. Yeah. And I certainly am.
Yeah, it's just another example of how giving really Waxahachie is. It's really amazing to me. For our viewers, what's the name of it again?
Waxahachie Have It or Need It.
And they can find it on Facebook.
It's a Facebook group.
Okay.
Yes.
Waxahachie Have It or Need It on Facebook. Okay.
And I want to tell you a little bit about my family. I'm very proud of my family. I'm married to William Wallace. He's a district judge here. Scott knows him very well, and we think a lot of you, Scott, and I know you supported him, during his campaign.
I did.
And I was his treasurer during that time, so I got the exposure and the experience of being involved in a campaign. I had no idea then that it was so much work, and I can't believe now I've jumped in to do it again.
Yeah.
But I love Waxahachie, and I'll do anything,
Right.
to continue my service.
Very good.
But I have a daughter, Andy Wallace. She just turned 20, and most of you know she's a commercial pilot.
Right.
We're having a lot of fun watching her with that, and we're proud of her. And she's already got a couple of students that she's
Nice.
teaching to fly.
Yeah.
And my mom, my dad passed away about 13 years ago, and my mom lives with us.
Oh, okay.
She's been with us about 5 years. And so
Very good.
that's me.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that with us. I don't want to forget to ask you about the forum and your opinions and concerns or thoughts about it. And for our viewers, there was a forum last night for all 6 candidates at Coleman High School or Coleman Junior High, a forum in which questions were asked and answers were given. The difference between an interview like this and a forum is that a forum is kind of open-ended. Here we have give and take, and you can learn a whole lot more by one-on-one interviews. That said, what did you think of the forum last night?
Well, I think it went pretty well. I really just tried to focus on me and what I bring, to city council if I'm elected, and I spoke from the heart. I really don't want to comment on the other candidates. There were some comments that made me a little uncomfortable. I would never personally take any cheap shots toward another candidate, regardless of what the subject matter would be. And there were a couple of those last night, and they made me feel uncomfortable. So as what I did, to try to combat, me showing that, was just plant a smile on my face. And I did that because I wanted people to know that, that I'm not part of that. I don't agree with it. I'm going to be professional always, and no matter what or how negative it gets, that I'll never be involved in that.
That's good. And again, there will be more to say about some of those comments that were made, and some of those candidates that made those comments will be here, and I'll be asking them specifically about those comments and about their platform, and get deeper into why they feel the way they do. Thank you for being there last night and for investing your time and energy.
You're welcome.
So I think most everybody knows that City Council is an unpaid volunteer, very important. I think the 2 most important boards or committees in any city in America, school board and city council. That's just how I feel about it. The president can change, and our lives may be impacted on some level, but when city council folks or school board folks make decisions, we're directly impacted locally, personally. So very important positions. But in this case, in most cases, they're unpaid positions. So the question, and they're quite stressful. You get hit from all sorts of angles. So the question is, why would you want to do that? What compels you, motivates you to want to be a city council person in Waxahachie?
Several reasons, Scott. One is because I know Waxahachie. After 30 years of patrolling the streets and meeting people, answering calls, seeing them at their worst, protecting citizens through the night when they slept and I drove around and patrolled. I know Waxahachie, and I know that I can take my leadership and my experience of spending that time at the police department and living here and serving here my entire adult life. I know that I can take that to city council, and I know I can do good things there.
Got it. Makes you emotional, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes.
Yes.
I won't ask any more so as to keep you from getting any more emotional, but I can sense the emotion. So there are a whole list of attributes and characteristics that make any of us good or bad at what we do. In your opinion, based on what you know about city council, based on what you've observed over your lifespan here and watching city council, what do you think are needed, kind of must-have characteristics or attributes of a person to be an effective, successful council person?
Definitely a strong leader, someone that is willing to give a lot of their own time, someone that's level-headed, someone that has experience, with budgets, that has a good personality. This particular office, somebody that knows Waxahachie and its demographics, even though it's changed a lot over the years. It's still Waxahachie. It's still, it's just, we've just added more people, and we've added more businesses, and we've added more, developments, but it's still Waxahachie.
Right.
It's still, that hometown feel.
Right.
And a lot of those people are still here, and if they're not here, their children and their grandchildren are here, and they were raised by those same people.
Right. I agree. So it's a good segue into two things. One, I just want to ask you about budget, your acumen, your comfortability with, as I don't know if it came up last night or in another interview I had, but I'm going to be asking each candidate about this. The budget process can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months of a year. And so when you think about a council person being a 2-year term, we're talking 25% of that time, maybe a little more, spent budget, with a budget. So just from your background and your current feel, that sort of thing, how do you feel about budgeting and that sort of thing? I mean, I don't know exactly what specifically to ask, but I just want to get a sense of your budget acumen. And I'll shut up after I say this, but we don't. What I think we don't need are people who have no clue about budgets, trying to then influence or contribute to a budget that impacts people so deeply.
Sure. Speaking of budgets, I love budgets. I love doing budget work. It's like a puzzle to me. And even more than that, it's at the end of that budget year, the money that you have left, because hopefully you have money left, to me is exciting, because then you can take that money and do some of the things that you didn't think that you were going to be able to do through that year. I've always done my own checkbook my entire life. I have, and always done really well with it. Sometimes I surprise myself, Scott, and my husband too, as well. This year in Rotary, dealing with the budget there, I got, quite a bit of experience with that. And, there again, I love working on budgets, figuring out how to make, especially when you have a lot of different departments, figuring out, how do you make all this work? How do we take care of all these different departments with a certain amount of money, all the while trying to make people happy as much as you can, knowing that it's probably not gonna make them real happy, but how can we satisfy them to a point where they're not storming the city hall? Yeah, right. When I was at Safeway, I spent 4 years there, and of course I was a checker, during that time. Yeah. But I love budget. I love working on budgets. I'm not scared of budgets. I'm not intimidated by numbers. I don't like math that much, but the fact of, and I think it goes back to my background being a detective. It's kind of like solving things and, figuring out how does this work? How can we make it work? And at the end, how did it turn out?
Right.
And so that's exciting to me.
Good. So, do you think, based on what you know, that the city of Waxahachie is well run right now?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
And do you, there are a lot of things that come from the budget, obviously. Last night we heard some folks at the forum, some candidates, again say that their math is fuzzy about taxes and being at certain levels. I'm not sure how they get to these conclusions, but lowering taxes is an objective everybody on the planet has. Nobody, I don't think, that has any sense would say, I want to pay more taxes.
Right.
So there was a comment made last night that lowering taxes doesn't necessarily mean that you have to cut anything. I think that's a little bit of language gymnastics, so to speak, because at the end of the day, to lower taxes, something has to be adjusted so as to achieve that tax decrease. Of course, want to be efficient, and sometimes there can be efficiencies found that will help taxes a little. But by and large, when taxes need to be decreased, that means something has to change in the budget. A line item has to change. So, having said that, what is your thought about taxes? I mean, do you see taxes as something, a necessary evil, or do you want to lower taxes? Do you want to do anything about taxes as it relates to the city?
I would love to sit here and tell you and tell the citizens that we're going to lower taxes. I would love to say that and mean it, and it really happened, because I'm paying those same taxes.
That's right.
I live here too.
That's right.
They affect me. I mean, every year, my mortgage payment goes up.
Right.
And every year I'm just like, crap, why does this keep happening? But I can't promise that, because I'm not going to compromise the services that we need here. Right. We have a lot of luxuries here in Waxahachie,
Sure.
and everybody wants more. But to answer your question, I would love to, and I will certainly look at that if I'm elected. Can't promise that, but if there's a way, without cutting, or compromising the necessary services, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Good. Related to taxes, or I get maybe it's more growth, is new business, economic development. So there have been plenty of examples over the years. You're familiar with many of them, but tax incentives or tax abatements, which are really the carrot on the stick that gets new business, whether it's retail, manufacturing, to come to Waxahachie. Tax abatements or incentives are that carrot, usually that carrot. I mean, obviously Waxahachie is a big carrot too, just the city. What are your thoughts and feelings about tax abatements and incentives for both retail and manufacturing base to come to the city?
Well, I like to think about, managed growth. Always, manage your growth. I think you have to have some of that, to attract developers, home builders to want to come to Waxahachie. But I will say that I don't think Waxahachie's in the place where we were in the past as far as letting everybody come to Waxahachie that wants to.
Right.
I think we can be a little more selective now, but we do. I'm for growth. I am. There's some things that I want to come to Waxahachie. Some restaurants
Right.
that I want to see come here. I want to see, things that families can do more things that families can do and spend time together and make memories.
Right.
We don't have enough of those things here. Right. And so, you know, in order to get that, we have to continue to grow. And yeah, I do think it's necessary to offer some things to make coming here, you know, more appealable. And so, you know, but there again, it's really about managing the growth and not just saying, oh, you want to come, you know, to Waxahachie and you want to build whatever? Sure, come on. We want everybody here. I think those days have changed for us, Scott.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if we could get a Chewy's here and a Alabama apparel store, I'll be happy. I'm not leaving anyway, but I'd certainly never leave if those two were here. I do want to ask you specifically about showbiz. Showbiz, I think those incentives or abatements came up about, I know, within the past 18 months. And there were some, or maybe one on council, who didn't like the deal that was given to showbiz, which I don't think was any more of a deal than what normally is made for the kind of growth and expansion that they wanted. Were you comfortable with showbiz expanding, and do you see that as an example of using incentives properly for the city, or do you have an opinion?
Well, I don't know what incentives were offered to them, but if you tell me that it was along the same lines as anyone else would be offered, I would say absolutely. I've been out there. I will tell you, I haven't bowled in many, many, many years, but now I've become a bowler, all because of that expansion.
Well, good.
And I can't wait to get back. I've actually figured out which ball is right for Billy, and so and that's what I'm talking about, Scott. You know, me and my daughter, we've started bowling together just because they did that expansion.
Sure.
And yeah, I'm all for that.
Good. Yeah, what I hope viewers, and many do already know, but tax abatements or incentives aren't a check written to companies to come here. It's a deal made to say, you come here, you're asking for some breaks on taxes, and we'll give those to you at some point, though, that ends, and then taxes kick in at a higher level. And over the span of a long time, sometimes decades, the city almost always benefits. I can't think of an example where it doesn't benefit. Along those lines, and we heard it again last night, and it's a pet peeve of mine, about the hospital gift. So Baylor Scott and White, the new one, the beautiful, iconic hospital that we have now, and we all should be proud of. Baylor Scott and White gave the old hospital the building and the parcel of land and parcels around it, as you know, as a gift, gave it to the city at no charge. There are some claims that that's going to cost the city $1 million and something dollars. I don't know where that hogwash comes from, frankly. The city, no matter who sits on council, well, most of the people that I think are wanting to be on city council would know how to make that deal work for the city. Calling it a boondoggle is unfair and unfortunate, in my view, and I'm not asking you to weigh in on that. But what do you think about the gift? What do you think about its location and what can be done there?
Me personally, I never turn a gift down. But in reference to the hospital, Scott, I don't see the structure. I see the land, and I see the location, and I see the possibilities. So I think it's a wonderful gift.
Okay, good. Two more things, and then we'll let you close, and we'll be done. Oftentimes, well, we know on a national scale, even on a state scale, that the party or political affiliation, that letter that comes behind someone's name or before it to indicate whether they're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, whatever other things are out there, does make a difference. I argue that at the local level, that being a Republican or a Democrat, liberal, conservative, libertarian, whatever, is irrelevant, again, on an ultra-local level, like in city council. I don't think because you may be a Republican or I may be a Republican and someone else may be a liberal or a Democrat, is going to make any difference on city council. Do you feel the same, or do you think there is there any need for politics, like we know it, to exist at the local level, the city council level?
You know, I've never really given any thought to the political affiliation of a city council person. I would say for the most part, no. That it doesn't matter, what political party somebody is that is in those positions. I could see where some decisions could be influenced by your beliefs, and especially if you are far right or far left. But I like to think that anybody that serves in that position or is willing to serve in that position is not gonna take those things really in account, that you're gonna take all people into account, and that everybody is equal, and show compassion across the board.
Okay, good. Last question. What I've got on here, what two challenges, biggest challenges, what do you think are the two biggest challenges that Waxahachie faces? If it's one, I don't get caught up in the number. I just want to get a sense from you as to what you see going forward is a challenge that you, as a city council person, would want to tackle and overcome, conquer, that sort of thing.
It's definitely growth. There's so much talk, from the citizens about growth, and I think a lot of people think that Waxahachie P&Z and Waxahachie City Council does let just anybody come here. I'm going to say I don't believe that, but if I get elected, I would change my mind. I don't know. I do attend city council meetings. I attended city council meetings before I ever decided to run for this office, which, by the way, I've wanted to run for city council as far back, as being a police officer at Waxahachie, well over 10 years. But I never felt like it was the right time, and I know it's the right time this time, regardless of the outcome. And so it's definitely growth, and I want more people to get involved so that they don't have to take a stabbing guess at what's going on. And I think a lot of that's happening. There are a few people that get involved and come to the meetings, and whether they watch it online or in person. But me personally, I want to offer an informal town hall meeting every month. That's what I want to do, and I would love to see, if I get elected, ideally I would love to see that the mayor involved in that and the other council members, and that way what is going on in our city is not just available in newspapers or online. If you care enough, then get in your car, physically come to this town hall meeting that everybody's aware of, happens the same date of every month, and we will let you know what's going on over this month, what's happened leading up to this time. I have a strong passion to reach everybody. There's a lot of people that aren't reached. Maybe some of that is because they're not making themselves available. But there are those people that, and I think it's the older generation. They're not online. My mother my mother's 81, and she got Facebook. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and to this day, she doesn't have a clue what's going on it. And she'll call me and say, Billie, I need you to take my information off of here because somebody's messing with me. And I said, Mom, they're not messing with you, but my picture keeps coming up.
Yeah.
And I said, Mom, you're probably, going to your Facebook page. But the older generation, they're not on social media.
Right.
And maybe they're not taking a newspaper.
Well, typically they are likely to be newspaper readers as opposed to being newspaper readers. You're right about social sites and that sort of thing. And that's why part of why we exist is to make sure that we have platforms that cover the spectrum of how different generations or different age groups access information. And it's getting to be a smaller number that are used to the ink and the print and the feel of newspapers. But that's how a decent size of our community gets information. Okay.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Sure.
When I talk about this informal town hall meeting that I would love to do if I'm elected, Scott, I vision that being all of us on council and the mayor and maybe even occasionally the city manager, but us actually getting to know people there and being friendly and being welcoming and letting them know that we truly value their thoughts and opinions. We can't always do what they want us to do, but we do value them. And just having that one-on-one contact, that's what I want to do.
It's important. I agree. Okay, so I'm going to just let you close out before I make a few remarks with whatever you'd like to say to our viewers, and then we'll be done. So.
Again, thank you for allowing me this time. I know a lot of you know me, and I know a lot of people, and a lot of the people that I don't know seem to know me. It's wild. I guess it's from being here for so long, but I truly hope that you consider voting for me. I want to take my leadership and my experience from the years that I've been here in Waxahachie and knowing the town and knowing the people. I want to take that same level of leadership to City Council, and I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Billie. So that does it for Billie Wallace. Just a reminder, we will be compiling all of the interviews that we're doing and provide them to you and via links, so you'll be able to see these interviews before. I'm told not to give specific dates here, but before early voting, which early voting starts Monday, May the 19th, and then Election Day is May the 1st, which is a Saturday. You will have all of the interviews accessible to you or available to you prior to the 19th. They will all come out at the same time so as to not allow any candidate to watch one and then change what he or she might say. So they all will come out at the same time, and then those will be accompanied by a kind of a summary podcast where I will just share with you more of an opinion column type podcast. You deserve what you just got, and that is to hear directly from a candidate, as opposed to a forum where there's just not enough time. There's no intimacy there really in terms of knowledge and understanding. So that's why we're doing this, and it's just part of our commitment to you, the people of Waxahachie. So thank you for joining us. This has been Sunspot. Have a great and blessed day. Bye.